Welcome everyone to the Al-Attiyah Foundation's latest conversation in a series of podcasts seeking to address the urgent energy topics of the day with a selection of high-profile invited experts. My name is Axel Threlfall. I'm editor-at-large with Reuters based out of London, and I am thrilled to be hosting another of these conversations. As I'm sure most of you are aware, the Al-Attiyah Foundation is an independent think tank that aims to provide robust and practical knowledge and insight on global energy and sustainable development topics, and communicate those for the benefit of the Foundation's members and community. Now, we all know the context in which we're operating well enough, so I don't want to go over that in too much detail. The very latest headlines on the pandemic from Reuters read like this. The World Health Organization says over 230,000 new cases were recorded in the past 24 hours. That is a record. Florida sets a one-day record with over 15,000 new cases. Mexico surpasses Italy to post the world's fourth highest death toll. Argentina exceeds 100,000 cases. South Africa reimposes an alcohol ban and curfews. And second wave fears grow in Australia. So while infection and death rates are reducing in many countries, there is clearly still reason to be extremely vigilant. In energy markets, oil prices dropping again in response to the reports of spikes in infections. All eyes on an OPEC technical meeting expected to recommend an easing of supply cuts. And one other noteworthy headline this morning, the EU's benchmark carbon permit price has hit a 14-year high at just over 30 euros per tonne. That is related, of course, to this whole context that we're talking about. So lots to talk about. Today, I'm delighted to welcome His Excellency, Dr. Yury Sentyurin, to share some insights specifically on how the world of natural gas has changed or not, and how he expects things to move forward. Dr. Sentyurin is the Secretary General of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum. The GECF is an intergovernmental organization of 20 member countries, which jointly controls 72% of the proven gas reserves, 46% of its marketed production, 55% of pipeline, and 61% of LNG exports across the globe. It was officially established in 2008 and has its permanent secretariat in Qatar. A very good afternoon, Your Excellency, and welcome once again to an Al-Attiyah Foundation activity. Very nice to have you with us.
Glad to hear from you, and of course, I'm very privileged by this opportunity to talk with you and to participate in the event arranged by one of our best and valuable friends and counterparts from Al-Attiyah Foundation. I would like, first of all, to express my sincere gratitude and appreciation for our valuable colleagues from the foundation, which is considered to be our privileged partner here in host country, Qatar.
Okay, Your Excellency, thank you very much indeed for that. Let me start with this question, and it's a question that you are often asked, but I just wonder if your position has changed at all. You're often asked if the GECF will ever change into a gas OPEC, if you like. Your answer is always no. Is it still no? That is not the role of the GECF?
It's a very interesting question indeed. I would like to say that recently we have marked our 10th anniversary since the establishment, inception of the GECF as a full-fledged international organization. Just I would like to remind you that in December 2008, 12 countries at that moment signed an intergovernmental agreement in compliance with which the full-fledged international entity, that is GECF, started its history. But before that, it was in early 2000, the amount of countries exporting natural gas decided to establish a collaborative platform in order to exchange their views and their information upon the situation on energy markets globally and on natural gas markets specifically. So, of course, GECF is not a regulator, GECF is not an entity interfering in market affairs and in market issues. This is the forum of gas exporters, providing gas exporters some recent information, up-to-date information about the situation on energy markets, equipping them with some best practices, best businesses, and with understanding and projection of further development of gas markets and so on and so forth.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much indeed. Very comprehensive, and it seems to me your response remains a pretty definitive no when we ask whether you'll ever change into a gas OPEC. Moving on, I know the Al-Attiyah Foundation and all who follow its work have been avid readers of your global gas outlook to 2050. It views a fairly conventional demand-supply outlook driven by population growth and raising wealth. Of course, this was launched just before the outbreak of COVID-19. We all know the short-term outlook has changed. What are you, give us your outlook for gas in the short and long term, and tell us how long you think the current oversupply will and can last.
Undoubtedly, the current economic downturn and restrictions caused by COVID-19 have bearish implications on natural gas demand, especially in energy-intensive sectors embracing the short-term and mid-term periods. At present, we are in the process of drawing up a new edition of a global gas outlook, taking into account the implications of COVID. And as for the short term, we forecast natural gas demand decline in 2020. Unfortunately for gas producers, our estimations that decline will be between 2.8% in optimistic case and up to 6% in pessimistic variant. In 2021, gas demand will strongly rebound. It's our opinion. However, it could reach the 2019 level only in 2022. Over the long term, we still adhere to our pre-COVID estimates with some adjustments, of course. Gas consumption in 2050 can be 2 to 3% less, or in absolute figures, between 100 to 200 billion cubic meters less. Main conclusion for the time being that natural gas will remain an indispensable fuel for the energy transition and will be the only hydrocarbon resource to increase its share in the global energy mix. The long-term energy prospects will depend on the pace of economic recovery and the ability of countries to implement their stimulus packages to mitigate the downturn effects.
Okay, Your Excellency, thank you very much indeed for that. Let's move on, if we could. I'd like to get your opinion on what you think the future for gas might be, where it might lie, other than its use for electricity generation. Of course, we talk about petrochemical production. We hear more and more about the hydrogen economy. Just give us your thoughts on where you see the future going now.
We think that the share of natural gas in the global energy mix will be from the 23rd% for the time being until 27% by 2050. So the natural gas will remain the only hydrocarbon which will enlarge its share in the energy mix, world energy mix by 2050 as well. Let me talk more about petrochemicals. Specifically, the crude and natural gas prices are the main factor to determine the future of relevant capacities. And that is why the shale gas revolution in the United States has brought low-cost production of feedstocks and mostly ethane.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much indeed. Just moving forward, I'd like to ask you about the competition for the gas market in Europe. What is your thought on the main competitor to natural gas in Europe? Is it coal?
You are correct, but partially. European energy markets in general and gas markets in particular are highly competitive due to diversity of supply sources, interconnected networks, open access to pipeline network, as well as sufficient LNG import and storage capacities. Furthermore, energy policy frameworks like the third energy package, accompanied by numerous gas hubs, have created more competition for gas and LNG traders. That's why, therefore, in Europe, there's not only gas competition, but gas needs to compete with other sources of energy, including coal, renewables, and nuclear. Simply put, in a nutshell, it seems to us that in Europe, when coal is cheaper than gas, the demand switches to coal regardless of the issues related to environment.
Right.
But recently, we have observed that there's coal to gas switching in power sector in Europe due to the combination of high carbon prices and low gas and LNG prices. As for renewables, frankly speaking, I'm honest with you, we don't see them, renewables energy sources, as competitor of natural gas. We consider them as a partner of natural gas, as a complementary source of energy relying on natural gas. The latter being a guarantee for the stability of the grid and the security of supply for a demand base load as well as peak regimes.
Okay, let me ask you this. This is a more general question around what we've been talking about. Do you see natural gas still as this bridge fuel between the oil-based economy of the 20th century and the clean energy-based economy envisaged for the late 21st century?
We use another expressions. We call natural gas as a fuel of choice, as a fuel of 21st century, as a most environmentally friendly fuel, as the most affordable, flexible, and as the most abundant fuel, and as a natural partner of renewables, which can be used. And as well as we use another expression which is very important for us, that is we call natural gas as a destination fuel during the transition period. This was about expressions, about words. Yep. But from my point of view, more important to analyze the share of natural gas for the time being and in the foreseen future. As I already mentioned, natural gas will remain the only hydrocarbon which increases its share in the global energy mix from 23 to 27% and will be the leading fossil fuel. So we think natural gas has got a good, promising future.
Okay, can we? I want to address this issue of imports, and we've seen no new importers of LNG in 2019, 2020. We've also seen relatively few floating regasification storage vessels. How much of a constraint, Your Excellency, is this on the LNG trade, or is the problem a shortage of finance for gas-fired power stations, would you say?
It's true that no new countries joined the club of LNG importers in 2019. It compares to one new importer in 2017, unless my memory fails me, it was Malta, and two new importers in 2018, Bangladesh and Panama. As such, in 2019, the number of LNG importers remained at the 2018 level, namely 42 countries importing LNG. But we should realize that the number of LNG importers cannot rise exponentially every year. It takes potential LNG importers relatively much time to take a crucial decision to construct LNG regasification terminals while increasing the share of gas in their energy mixes. Most of developed countries and major countries with emerging economies have already built and actively utilized LNG terminals. Meanwhile, among potential LNG importers, there are many developing countries with relatively low financial resources and relatively small gas market. In the context of the current low price environment, many of these countries might take decision to switch from coal and oil to gas in their energy mixes. This is our hopes. In the coming years, we will witness the commissioning of LNG terminals in new importing countries such as Philippines, Croatia, with the infrastructure under construction there now. Yep. Meanwhile, Vietnam and Germany are very likely to take final investment decisions on LNG terminals soon. Besides, we shouldn't forget that there emerge new opportunities of supplying regasified LNG to some landlocked countries and countries without LNG regasification infrastructure. It's a new phenomenon from my point of view. Although technically these countries are not considered as the new LNG importers, actually they get access to regasified LNG through the neighboring countries. Regarding floating storage and regasification units, 13 new projects might be commissioned by 2025, with a final investment decision taken on 4 of them, 2 projects in India, 1 project in Croatia, and 1 project in the United Arab Emirates. We see promising future for this segment of the LNG market, since floating storage and regasification unit projects are less costly and rather medium scale compared to onshore terminals.
Your Excellency, I'd like to finish up with a question. We talk about other countries. I'd like to move away from Europe and finish up with a question on Africa. We see that Africa doesn't export to other African nations. Is there a great untapped market here? Perhaps the same can be said for South American countries. Not much intra-regional trade. What are your thoughts on that?
In Africa, we assume a continuous rise in gas demand, reaching around 380 and to 390 BCM by 2050, an increase of almost 150%. So I would like to highlight a few initiatives put forward by our member countries. I'm talking about Equatorial Guinea's LNG to Africa initiative. This project opens significant prospects for African countries with limited infrastructure or lacking domestic gas. Gas to power will be the anchor sector for the development of regional gas supplies, allowing African nations to monetize locally produced gas and provide clean and environmentally friendly energy source to people. And we shouldn't forget about recent discoveries of natural gas in a few of African countries. Due to that, I think Africa will occupy a very significant position in the future world. Now, Africa delivers or provides approximately 5 to 6% of the global natural gas production, but its share in the nearest future will increase up to 10% by 2050. So from all these points of view, we consider Africa as a very promising continent for the natural gas producers. As regards to Latin American countries, demand is growing over there to nearly 400 BCM in 2050, but the production will not be sufficient and would be at least 100 BCM less than demand. Hence, Latin American countries are needed to import natural gas. So we are cooperating with all who are concerned about natural gas, and specifically from these 2 continents, as we consider them as the most prospective and promising consuming and producing mainlands.
Okay, I want to get a very, very quick response from you on this final question, if I may, Your Excellency. Is climate change only a rich country's game? Less developed countries just need more and cheaper energy? Is that clearly that is something that a lot of people are thinking?
I would like to say that all our member countries supported definitely Paris Agreement goals and objectives. One of the recent countries joined this international convention through the ratification of the appropriate document was one of our key member countries, Russia by name. So for the time being, the whole team is supporting the efforts of international community to meet these challenges. It's rather easy for us to fulfill our commitments in this regard, as natural gas is considered, and this is not necessary to prove this fact, is considered to be as the most environmentally friendly fossil fuel, the cleanest fossil fuel. Due to that, we call for all dealing with fuel and energy sources to look at natural gas as a most prospective, environmentally friendly fuel of choice for the 21st century.
All right. Your Excellency, I am going to stop us there. Plenty of food for thought. Dr. Yury Sentyurin is the Secretary General of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum. We've talked about a lot, the outlook for gas, its future uses, competition for the gas market in Europe, the future for Africa, Latin America, among many other things. Your Excellency, many thanks for talking with us today. Of course, as a non-profit independent organization, the Foundation would also like to thank its members. Their continued support is valued and appreciated. Watch this space for the next podcast in this series. I'm Axel Flothel from Reuters. Thank you and goodbye.